Welcome to Kathryn Raaker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, fashion and health, artists, destinations, traditions. This is Kathryn Raaker's World.
Hi, this is Kathryn Raaker of Kathryn Raaker's World. I am so honored to have with us Dr. Kevin Schewe, and he has written two wonderful books besides being an oncologist in radiation. And he also has a clinic. He's from Denver, Colorado. I want to welcome you back to my show. You've been on my radio shows, and now this is our television show. So welcome to our show, Doctor, and thanks for giving me so much of your time today.
Oh, it's just wonderful to be here with you from colorful Colorado, golden Colorado today, Kathryn.
I love Colorado. It's such a beautiful state. And I love coming out west. I've lived out west. I've lived all over. But the West is so beautiful. You have another hobby besides being, it's not a hobby being a doctor, but my point is you do have something that you love to do, and that's to write. When did you get the writing bug?
About the fall of 2018, so coming up on 2 years, Kathryn. I'm a military history buff, and I get all these journals about U.S. military history and World War II history. And so I was reading a story in November of 2018 about a famous plane called the Phantom Fortress. And it was a B-17 bomber that came in to land on its third mission ever, came in to land in Kortenberg, Belgium in November of 1944. The problem was there was no plane scheduled to land, but it came in and landed anyway, sits there in the field with its engines running, and nobody gets off the plane. And so the British ground crews, this is at a British air base, Kortenberg, Belgium, and they're waiting, and no one gets off the plane. So they sent a single brave British officer out, a guy named John Crisp, to check it out. They thought, well, maybe the Germans are using it as a Trojan horse, or maybe everyone's dead and injured on board. They just didn't know. So John goes out, finds his way on board. There are parachutes lined up against the fuselage, leather flight jackets on the floor, candy wrappers open all over. Not a soul on board.
Wow.
Engine still running. John has to figure out how to turn the engines off by trial and error. And so it was like I got struck by lightning. I thought, heck, time travelers could have been on that plane. Right. And got zapped back to wherever they came from before John got there. And then I'm like, well, it could have been my boyhood gang that I grew up with, the Bad Luck Gang. And boom, the idea was born. And I started writing that first book. So that's how I caught the bug, Kathryn. That was your question. And I started writing that first book on January 14th of 2019. And I finished writing it on April 14th of 2019. 90 days I wrote the first book. It was like I was inspired. I mean, how do you write a book in 90 days when it's your first book ever?
Me did it in 90 days. So there are a few of us that are out there that do write because you've got these wonderful ideas and you're very creative. Dr. Kevin. And, I think that all the doctors I know are all actually very into the arts. I mean, my own personal doctor, he's a musician and he had his own band and the whole 9 yards. So, I mean, I think that we all need an outlet.
let me just comment on that for a second, because I've thought about this. My mother, Gloria, she was very analytic. My dad, he was incredibly artsy. And to be a radiation oncologist, I have to be analytic. I mean, it's physics and math, right?
Right.
And so now I'm getting in the latter part of my career, and so I've been using my left brain all this time, and all of a sudden I get hit with this, lightning bolt to start writing, and now I'm using the right side of my brain that has been dormant, not totally, but
Right.
all these years. And so it's so exciting because all of a sudden now I'm using both sides of my brain, but
So,
I'm
and you're
still working as a doctor
active.
during the day.
You're active, and that's what it's gonna. And it's funny because no matter how old I get, and I never think of myself as old, and I never will. I'm like this little girl inside. You can't. So that part of your right side of your brain is this child that wants to come out. And so that's what takes you back to your boyhood days, right?
Yes, Kathryn, you just nailed it. Really, you did. You did, because it is like you're reliving your childhood, again. And I think, in my parents' generation, they kind of looked like at life more as you do all these things and you retire and you live happily ever after. And so, life was more like a destination for them. For me, life is just an adventure. It's
And
like,
just keep on going, right?
yeah, I want to be on this adventure until I move on to the next life. And so I always tell my patients, about growing old. There's two things about growing old: mind and motion. You have to keep your mind busy and you have to stay in motion. And so, for sure, with this awakening of the right side of my brain as a book author, I am just, it's like I'm starting life all over again.
And that's how I felt because I wasn't always a radio and television person. I was in PR and marketing and I was an educator. And then all of a sudden it just happened. And I felt so comfortable with it that, and then writing my first book, that was exciting actually. Absolutely. And we're on the second book right now, as I told you on the radio show. And it's getting even better because we're rewriting it. And I'm really excited about it because it's bringing major adventure in a love triangle. How about that one?
That's
So
exciting.
you gotta really read the first one to read the second one. Is that the truth about your books? You have to read the first book to really get the feel of the gang and what you're talking about. Bad Love Strikes is your first book, correct?
Yeah, so actually, I've had a lot of people read the second book, Bad Love Tigers, first. And I've in the front of the book, I have a little synopsis of each of the characters of the Bad Love Gang, and so you really can pick up Bad Love Tigers and read it first. And what happens is when you do that, it makes you want to go back and read Bad Love
I
Strikes.
know, I know. So that there's a third book coming out.
Yeah, I know. I'm putting the final touches on it right now. It's called Bad Love Beyond, and I really take um, my readers to a new place in book three,
Really?
because as I was telling you, the physics of space travel and time travel are intertwined. I mean, those things go together, and it takes exotic matter to hold a wormhole open so that you can travel through it safely, whether you're traveling from one point in time to another or one point in space to another. And so this is all consistent with Einstein's theory of relativity.
Let me ask you a
And
question. We're going to be sending somebody to Mars. Do you think they'll have that same feeling as time travel?
Yeah, I think going to Mars is going to be, it's going to raise the space program to a whole new level because it's not like you get there in a couple of days like you do
No,
going to the moon. And so I think it will play with the minds of the folks that are taking that ride.
I love the idea of going back in time or going forward in time. I really think that can happen. Do you?
I do. I do. In my first book, think about this, Kathryn. In my first book, I describe um, time travel this way, like a stack of records, one on top of each other. And each record represents a year of time. And so you can go backwards or forwards in that deck of records and replay that year, and it'll always replay the same way. And that's actually based on a German physicist's observations from the early 1900s.
Well, we're going to take a short break here. And where can people buy or find your books? And what's your website?
So the website's actually pretty easy. It's kevinschewe.com. So it's KEVINSCHEWE.com. And you can go on the website, hit the buy tab, and it'll take you to Kindle or Nook. You can buy the book in hardcover, or the books, Bad Love Strikes and Bad Love Tigers, in hardcover, paperback, or Kindle, or Nook. And they will be out in audio later. And then you can you can follow me at Real Kevin Schewe on Instagram. My Instagram account is really a hoot because my publisher made me do it.
That's the way to do it. You really do. And on that note, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back on Kathryn Raaker's World with Dr. Kevin Schewe. We are back with Dr. Kevin Schewe with his two books, Bad Love Tigers, Bad Love Strikes. That's his first book. And then Bad Love Tigers is his second book. Now, in the third book, which is coming out, what's so different about this book than the other two? And how many more are you going to put into the series?
So book number 3 is called Bad Love Beyond. And what's different about Bad Love Beyond is in the first 2 books, it's time travel. But in book 3, there's actually space travel. So in the gang, what they need a cure for breast cancer.
Wow.
They need a cure for one of their gang, and they go to a planet called Planet Azor. That's 11.5 billion light years away from Earth.
Wow.
And I just want to illustrate this for you. I'm going to take a sheet of paper here. So if you imagine that this is Earth and this is Planet Azor, 11.5 billion light years away, how do you get there? You can't take a Star Trek ship and drive that far. It just is not physically possible. So the way to do it is you're actually folding time and space so that the distance between those 2 points is now this far. Wow. And the way you get there is you create a wormhole between this point and this point, and you travel quickly from Earth to that planet in a distant galaxy through a wormhole. And so that is what actually happens in book number 3.
Do they ever get older, Doctor?
Do they get older? No.
They stay the same age, right?
They continue to age in their normal chronologic way, but they're the same age when they get to that planet. They do not age passing through the wormhole.
Okay, I wondered about that. So, is there aging in each book series do they ever fall in love? Do they ever have any other things besides these assignments, or what?
Well, sure. So
I know.
they're a group of teenagers, and so all of us have nicknames. So my nickname is Bubble Butt or BB, and I'm the narrator of the book series. And so actually in book number 2, Bad Love Tigers, you find out that Bubble Butt and Crisco actually have something going on. And
Crisco, a girl?
yeah, Crisco is a girl.
Okay.
And,
Wasn't sure.
well, I don't want to give away too much. You got to read the book to find out how she got her nickname. So anyway,
Boys and girls. They're not just, they're a group of teenage kids, right?
right.
They're young women and young men, right?
Yes.
And it's a gang of guys. So that's the reason why I asked that question.
No, and Bomar and Cleopatra are African Americans. Bomar is my best friend, and he has an IQ somewhere north of 140. And so that's why we call him Bomar, after the Bomar calculators in the early 1970s. Okay. And his sister Cleopatra, we call her that because she's the queen of any social circle that she enters.
Oh, okay.
And but we do have a couple of older characters in the book series. There's Bucky, who's the pilot that joins us from World War II. So he's in his mid-20s. And then we have Waldo and Mary, who are our surrogate parents. And they were this couple that grew up in our neighborhood that kind of virtually adopted all the children in the neighborhood, and their home was always open to everyone.
Wow.
And
there are a couple like that in real life for you?
Yes. Yeah, they're based on real people. And Waldo passed away about 19, 20 years ago, but Mary's still alive, and Mary just adores the book series.
I can imagine she does.
You know, she just loves it. And so she's in her 80s now, and she lives in St. Louis. And Waldo was a Korean War veteran. So anyway, he plays a pretty major role in the series. And it's so much fun because a lot of these characters are based on real people, but it's incredibly diverse. I mean, it's a diverse group of kids.
Well, I grew up with diversity. I never saw black and white, yellow and green. And I think that has a lot to do with our parents and, you know, where we grew up and our, you know, and our morals and a lot of different things. So kids were kids to me. They were nothing, you know, they were friends. And I mean, I think when you travel as much as I have, you know, Dr. Kevin, I've been very lucky to live around the world. So I've met everyone that you could ever imagine. And I've kept those friendships, and it was a lot to do with the military and following the military that I had that advantage. So, you know, it's amazing to go back in time, especially to Bentwaters, where I used to live in England, and where it is today and what's going on there. So in my book series, you see the kind of the same thing, except she's a little older than you in the books. So I think it's really fun to be able to do this. What do you think? You have morals in your book as well. I know you do, correct?
Morals?
Yeah, morals.
Yes.
Yes. And these kids are so excited about these adventures, wouldn't you say?
Yes, they are. I mean, and so some have natural fears. One of the characters, Goondoggy, he just does not have the natural instinct of fear. He's nearly fearless.
Nearly fearless. I like that word. That's different.
Yeah, Goondoggy's based on a real person, and so
today, where's he today?
In Missouri.
In Missouri. Now,
yeah.
Have they aged more than you? All these real people.
Some yes, some no. I think it's all about genetics, right? I mean, we all age the way that the way our parents did.
Right.
If you take like alcohol and tobacco out of the picture, if you take those kinds of things away and you take care of yourself, you age more gracefully. But yeah, some have aged more than others. I would say, for example, Mary, who's now in her mid 80s, my goodness, she's
Mary's in her mid 80s, and
yeah, and Mary's doing great. I mean, and she's taking so she lives in a retirement community in St. Louis, and she's taking my books all around to her social circle of friends that like, you have to read this. This is what it was like when Waldo and I were, surrogate parents to raising all the children in the neighborhood. And so she absolutely adores the whole concept.
have you done book signings with these wonderful seniors prior to pandemic?
No, I did. That didn't pan out. The book signing that I had at the Broadmoor, right at the at 4th of July, was actually after the pandemic, and no one was able to come to that. However, this is really exciting. I'm going to add another twist in here. I finished the screenplay to the first book over the Labor Day weekend. And I've put it into this service called Inktip, which 150 producers look at Inktip every week. And I'm going to enter more services, but my screenplay for the first book is actually done and out there. It's registered, copyrighted. And I've told the gang, when we get a movie producer, all of us are going to be in the credits of that movie playing our air guitars, and we'll pick a song from one of the soundtracks. Because, my books, Bad Love Strikes, Bad Love Tigers, and the new one coming out, Bad Love Beyond, they all have soundtracks of songs from the 60s and 70s. And we all loved music. I mean, that was our generation. We grew up with the sounds of the 60s and 70s. And so anyway, everyone has agreed that we will get together for the movie credits once that gets done.
But I wish you all the luck in getting it done. Okay.
Thank you.
I've been there. I know. So I'm not discouraging you in any way, shape, or form. I know that you have. I would think personally, if it were me, I would go with television and have a regular television series, because like Acorn and a lot of the other ones, you know what we're watching now? Acorn. And that's where my books are going to go, Acorn.
I've had a lot of people, patients especially, have just mentioned to me that there are little things about my books that remind them of Stranger Things. Only the characters are older, and it's not about monsters. But anyway, I could see this being like a Netflix series or something like that. I think it would be perfect for that.
Well, there's a lot of television networks that I belong to now that are always looking for it. So we can talk later about it. But do you know that we have run out of time already?
Oh, no.
Yes, we have. You'll have to come back. What can I tell you? Right?
In book 2, you do meet Blue Nova 1. And I'll leave it at that. So you have to go meet Blue Nova 1 in Bad Love Tigers.
Right. I want to thank you so much for joining me today on Kathryn Raaker's World, because my world is all over the world. And now with Simul TV and all the other stations that we're on television, I think it's pretty exciting. And I know that my listeners and my readers, because we have a lot of people that love to read still or to listen, would love to meet you in person. And they can do that through Zoom or lots of other things right now. But when you get a chance, I can see you'll be on the road. Is that true?
All right. Wonderful.
So give your website, please, and where people can purchase your books so they can get a leg up on this. What do you think?
Sounds good. So kevinschewe.com, KevinSchewe.com. And you can, to buy the book, you can hit the buy tab on the website. It'll take you right to Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You can get the book in hardcover, paperback, Nook, or Kindle. It will be out in audio later this month. And follow me on Instagram at Real Kevin Schewe. It's a hoot. I do a time travel dance in front of my jukebox at home. You know, what could be better than that? The dancing doctor.
Well, listen, you should go on Dancing with the Stars. Are you going to do that next?
Yeah, I know that might be a little bit of a stretch for me.
Stretch for you? Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Kathryn Raaker's World. Don't forget to go to our website at KathrynRaakersWorld.com. You can see us all over the world, and we are on YouTube. We are on everything you could possibly get on Earth. So see you soon. Thank you for joining us today on Kathryn Raaker's World.
Bye-bye.